Yo, what's going on guys? It's Dude here, and today we're back with a brand new video. This time around, we're going to be covering all of the Porsche 911 cars in Gran Turismo 7, including the most popular car, bar none, in the entire game, the Porsche 911 RSR. Now, if there is a specific car that you're looking for, I'm going to leave timestamps in the video so you can skip to that car and get the setup more easily and more efficiently. All the road cars in this game have the wide body as well as the wide offset, along with all of the aero parts that come with it. Unless I specify otherwise, that will always be the case in these videos. I forgot to mention in the previous couple. But yeah, road cars are going to be run at full bore with the aerodynamics on full attack. If you are new to the channel and or you enjoy talking cars as well as setups, then subscribing and leaving a like will definitely help me out for future videos and also keep you informed on the latest and greatest setups on Gran Turismo 7. So without further ado, let's get started on the first car. So the first car, you know I had to do it. It's the Porsche 911 RSR. Undoubtedly the most popular car in Gran Turismo 7, and this car holds that title for a reason. Alright guys, sorry for the interruption, future Dude here. I know a lot of you guys like to run the 911 RSR with a little bit less power and closer to BOP settings with more weight. If you do put more weight on the car in particular, especially if you put that weight ballast towards the front of the car, you can definitely get away with running a little bit less natural frequency in the front, which will help the car rotate a little bit more in certain situations. I do find for the maxed out setup though, this is the best option. This is the fastest I was able to go with it. However, if you do get a bit of snap oversteer entering corners, you can lower the front downforce a bit to counteract this. But yeah, that's it guys. I'll let you guys get back into the video. This setup has nearly endless grip when applying the throttle out of medium to low speed corners, but it does pick up a slight understeer on the throttle at high speed, though this is par for the course for mid-engine GR3 cars. While being known as a forgiving car, the 1.49 update has made this car slightly more sketchy entering corners when equipped with a proper setup. While I recommend getting used to this exact setup I'm putting here to achieve the best lap times, if the car does have too much oversteer entering corners or on the brakes, the front downforce can be lowered to compensate for the instability when lifting off the brake. Keep in mind this will hurt your on-throttle rotation significantly in most situations, but even so, making this car more stable for certain tracks can be beneficial. Not the absolute fastest GR3 car in GT7 at the moment, especially maxed out, but on the right circuits will easily contend with any GR3 car besides the BRZ, of course. Next up, we have the 911 GT3 RS 992, an absolute beast in the corners, especially the high-speed ones. In my opinion, probably the best cornering road car in the entire game besides the Aston Martin Valkyrie. Although in typical 911 fashion, it can step out entering high-speed corners after lifting off the brakes. Anything you do to try to fix this condition will slow the car down when applying the throttle coming out of corners, which on most tracks isn't worth it as far as lap time goes. While corners are super important, the straights also count for something when trying to set fast lap times, and the GT3 RS is lacking a little bit in this area compared to other road cars around its PP level. With that being said, this is one of the few road cars in the game with a DRS system, which opens up the rear wing and creates less drag down the straight to improve the speed further. Just make sure you have an overtake button equipped, obviously. This unfortunately comes at the expense of modifiable rear downforce, but let's be real, who needs adjustable downforce when you have as much as a GR3 race car in a road car platform? Overall, a fantastic package in and around 800 pp. It can compete with the top dog road cars on the twisty tracks in maxed out form. Next up, we have the 911 GT3 RS 991, the 2016 model. One of the few cars that is actually better without the available engine swap that it has. I would recommend not running it with the engine swap. I think it's quite a bit better unless you're doing like fuel racing or something like that. Despite being the older generation of 911, this car can easily keep up and occasionally surpass the aforementioned 992, making it, in my opinion, the fastest Porsche 911 in the entire game around a track. Just like the 992, it does tend to step out sideways entering high-speed corners with this setup equipped, though the rotation seems to come on more gradually than its younger brother. It will take some time to get used to, but once mastered, it can make almost any other road car look like a joke in the higher speed corners, possibly one of the best cars to drive in the entire game. Unlimited rotation, unlimited rear end traction, and crazy fast lap times for the power level. Next up, we have the 911 GT3 RS 997 with the engine swap. This actually happens to be really good and designed specifically for sub 800 pp racing. This 911 shares its power plant with the 911 RSR race car and bridges the gap between the modern stuck to the ground GT3 RSs and the wild Widowmaker style 911s of old. This car, more than any 911 in my opinion, suffers from the dreaded corner entry oversteer, corner exit understeer dilemma that makes some of these rear engine cars very difficult to set up. With this build equipped, you get a fantastic compromise of off-throttle stability while preserving some of the on-throttle rotation. Just make sure to get the car rotated fully and allow yourself lots of space to exit and pick up the throttle. Just a side note as well, this setup also works really well for the non-swapped version of the car. However, the final gear must be shortened to accommodate less horsepower and lower straight line speeds, but it's a fast, fun, and stylish choice that takes the fight to any other 800 pp car, especially considering it stays under 800 pp without detuning it for max. Next up, we have the 911 GT3, the 996 version. The 911 from my childhood happens to be the first of its kind to bear the GT3 name. While the styling was controversial when it came out, I totally disagree with anyone who says it looks bad. Driving-wise, this car is a monster. It eats up medium to low speed corners like it's Joey Chestnut in the hot dog eating contest. Seriously, just flies through the low speed traction zones. It may have the lowest horsepower of any car in this video, but it can punch well above its weight and embarrass many modern cars with much more horsepower. While for PP racing, it may not have the most practical effectiveness, horsepower limited racing is where it can be dominant in almost anything between 300 and 600 horsepower. Like many of the other 911s, it can oversteer entering corners, but it's in my opinion the oldest 911 in which you can put a more conventional setup on it and still find reasonable drivability. It's one of the first cars I use when going through the single player on GT7, and when fully upgraded, it is one of the most slept on sports cars available in the dealership. Go do yourself a favor and pick one up. Now getting into something completely different, we have the 911 GT1 Strassenversion, which is obviously a homologation special from the late 1990s. This car does have lofty expectations. However, from the second you go into the upgrade shop, you do realize it's one of the few road cars to not have weight reduction, one of the few road cars to not get a wide body, and one of the few road cars to not have modifiable downforce. So despite the fact the 911 GT1 has its hands tied behind its back, it thrives in the high speed corners and also has low drag on the long straights. Where this car begins to fall apart is the low speed corners, however. It picks up a severe mid-corner understeer and struggles to put down the power in medium to low speed corners as well. Entering higher speed corners, the car is prone to snap oversteer, meaning the low speed behavior is difficult to fix with the setup without also sacrificing high speed stability. Despite all of its shortcomings, the car does put down decent lap times and is more than usable between 750 and 800 pp. If you can handle the lofty price tag, this car is a huge flex, no doubt about it. Next up, we have the 911 Carrera RS 993. With the engine swap, this does get the roof CTR3 swapped version. And now that I think about it, I probably could have put the roof cars in this video, but at this point, that'll be a video for a different day. This car is one of the coolest looking 911s in the game, in my opinion. The CTR3 swapped version of this thing drives even crazier than it looks. Many of the 911 isms I talked about earlier with the on-throttle understeer and the off-throttle oversteer definitely apply here, the latter of which being extremely debilitating on certain tracks. This car does not deal with bumps, elevation change, or curbs very well at all. Even with the front to rear aero setup that heavily favors rear downforce, this car still wants to kill you sometimes. And while on some tracks adding front downforce could be beneficial to get extra rotation, that will put the car above 800 pp. And in my opinion, sub 800 pp is where this car thrives the most. Though it wouldn't be my first choice on most tracks, it can be effective once the handling tendencies are mastered by the driver. I would stick to flat tracks with low elevation change for the best results though. Next up, we have the engine swap 911 Carrera RS 964. This car wants me dead. And last but not least, we have the Porsche 959, often considered by many at the time to be the ultimate 911. It doesn't quite live up to those expectations in-game, mostly because its real-life rival, the Ferrari F40, outperforms it tenfold. However, it can be a solid option. The four-wheel drive system, which was very innovative at the time, helps a lot considering the low-speed traction on the older 911s is usually a far cry from the modern cars. In addition, the corner entry oversteer this car had on the older updates has been calmed down a bit, which makes it easier to set up the car as well as drive it. Do I wish the car had more overall grip in the corners to live up to its legendary status? Yes. But for the specifications it's equipped to deal with in the game, it's a joy to drive with the setup on, and I recommend you pick one up. So here we are, 9 911s later and at the end of the video. Thank you guys for watching this far along. If you did enjoy the video and or enjoy the setup, I would appreciate if you leave a like as well as comment, and clicking the notification bell means you will never miss an upload. Of course, with these new physics in Gran Turismo, you want to make sure to have all of the up-to-date setups to compete in open lobbies or in offline races. Be sure to comment what you want to see next, because that definitely will have an influence on what cars I work on in the future. But other than that, guys, it's been Dude. I hope you guys have a fantastic night, and I'm out. Peace.